This is Athlete Lives Network. Today we have a special guest, Coach Roydon, Athletic Director and Head Coach of Morton High School Football. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, Carl, it's great to see you, and it's good to get back to catch up some old times.
Thank you, Coach. What we want to do is, get a little history on you as a person, childhood, football player, your coaching experience, and what's going on now. All right.
Absolutely.
So just go ahead and start off and just let us know, where are you from and some of your early influences in sports.
Well, it's this. I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, Park Forest, Illinois, and my dad, obviously the biggest influence on my brother and I. He was a high school football coach at TF North, so we grew up Bears fans such as yourself, even though I kind of migrated to the Vikings. But just football was in our family. We grew up playing it as little kids and watching my dad's games, and it just really got into our blood. So we played high school football at Rich South High School in Illinois, Richland Park, Illinois. And then I went on to play college football at Northeast Missouri State University, which is now Truman State, and it's in Kirksville, Missouri. That's a Division II university. When I got done playing there, I stayed on and coached 2 years there. I finished up my degree, coached linebackers, and then very fortunate to have the opportunity to go out to the University of Akron and with Jerry Faust, who was the head coach, and learn under that staff. I was the assistant offensive line coach there for 2 years. Got my master's degree, continued my education, and learned a tremendous amount of football, and that really kind of set me up to come back to the region and coach some high school football.
Okay. So why did you decide to leave Akron, Ohio, and go to the high school ranks?
I kind of always thought I wanted to do what my dad did, and coaching college was fantastic, but I really did it for more the experience and the knowledge rather than to pursue that as a career. A lot of guys go into that and they just want to jump around and land and network and build their future there. And I was really doing it kind of for the experience of it and to steal as much football information and knowledge that I could get from those college coaches. A lot of those coaches are now in the NFL and came from the NFL to Akron and then back into the NFL. So to be able to live with those guys for 2 years and pick their brains and coach with them and see them in action, see what they're thinking and how they do stuff, those are 2 years of experience that I don't know if I ever would have the knowledge I've got if I didn't choose to do that. So very fortunate it happened for me. Fortunate that I made that decision, and really can't thank those guys enough for letting me be a part of that for 2 years.
Okay, so in 1990, you end up becoming the defensive coordinator at East Chicago Central High School. Kind of go into play of how that happened.
Dave Vigofsky was the head coach of East Chicago, and he's a Rich South guy, but he's older than I am. Sorry about that, Dave. But his younger brother, Mark, and I played at Northeast Missouri and college roommates at that time, very, very close. And so Mark called me and said, hey, my brother got the job at East Chicago. He's looking for a defensive coordinator. And my tenure at Akron was kind of ending, and I could have stayed on, but I was really looking to take some of that knowledge and see if I could put it into use. So a position opened up at East Chicago where I could teach and coach, and it was really suited for me perfectly. A great opportunity for me to learn a lot about being a high school football coach. When I was at Akron, I learned a lot about football, being a football coach, but not really coaching football players. So that's what I learned at East Chicago, is how to take my knowledge on the field and transform it to where you're actually coaching people and kids. And I learned there at East Chicago that coaching the player is a lot more important than coaching the play. So I was very fortunate to be under Dave and to be able to learn that.
Okay. What type of athletes from East Chicago Central, what was your game plan on reaching them as a coach to get them players to work for you effectively?
I think I've always been a player's coach, and so you try to coach like you are a player, making sure it's fun, making sure kids work hard, work together, build those kinds of relationships. The talent we had at East Chicago was very athletic, allowed you to have a very wide open style of game. When I was the defensive coordinator, I wasn't in charge of the offense and couldn't dictate what kind of offensive style we have, but defensively we did a lot of man coverage, a lot of blitzing, a lot of utilizing our athleticism and smothering the run and kind of getting everybody involved. It was a very aggressive style. It was a lot of fun, and I think it carried over to the offensive style once I became a head coach. It took me a while to learn how to be an offensive coach and to coach the whole program, but the fact that we were having a lot of fun. Even the kids from my first year when we struggled, they'd come back and say how much fun they had. And I look back at some of those years, and we visited today about how if I wish I could have been more experienced, how I could have done some things differently. I wouldn't have changed the times with those kids at all. That was probably the most fun time I've ever had trying to break into coaching. But I think just the experience of being a head coach, that was very difficult trying to do it on the run. But the fact that we were so athletic and we opened things up, I think it gave our kids a good chance and a good opportunity to see that the future was going to be very bright.
Okay. So your first year as head coach, you go 1-8.
Right.
In Chicago Central. Kind of go into the play of your mind state for the next year as a coach. What you wanted to improve on?
Sure. I think as a coach, you always think about today, especially when you're young and you're new. You're thinking about today, and you don't really realize you're laying a good groundwork for tomorrow and the next day. And it was a disappointing year record-wise. East Chicago had always had good tradition and history, and I certainly didn't want to ruin that by putting in a new system that would make us struggle at least for a year. But it's the only way I could do it, and you have to do it your own way. So I tried coaching it my way, the style that I've always wanted to do, the style that I learned at Akron, and I knew there would be a transition period. And unfortunately for that group of seniors, they're the transition period. That's certainly not what I wanted, but it had to happen for me to be a coach and for my career to take off and for our programs to be as successful as they needed to be. So we did go through some rough times there, but building blocks throughout the lower levels of learning how to have a wide open system and spread the ball around and get that kind of teamwork on the offense has really paid off for our career.